Although it hasn't been treated as such by the masses, I would say that the 2024 Minnesota Vikings is currently a top two story in American sports, with the Vikings being number two. Number one, we'll get to a little bit later. But I hear the arguments about Josh Allen, his MVP season, Saquon Barkley, he has a chance to eclipse Eric Dickerson's single season rushing record, the Detroit Lions. And those are certainly the sexier routes to take compared to the Vikings. Juicier stories, with this video being brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. But when you consider a team going into this season that was universally recognized to be a bottom feeder team, a distant fourth in their own division, to then turn that into being a top five team in the league, it is the ultimate underdog story. This is what sports is all about. And there are multiple stories within this story for individuals that are going to be in the conversation for league awards that I am going to highlight. And we're going to do it in order of hierarchy, top to bottom, starting with Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, who should be the front runner for Executive of the Year. This year, operating with $71 million in dead money, the former starting quarterback, Kirk Cousins, no longer with the Vikings organization, accounting for $28.5 million of that dead money. Kwesi has perfectly illustrated this past offseason the phrase, baller on a budget. My shoe collection, 85% of which I did not pay MSRP. We're not rich over here. We got it at the outlets. And even if a brand new shoe comes out, I'm going to wait for that ish to drop down, even if it's a year later in price, to where it gets to the outlets. Bam, I get it. You go to the fast food restaurant nowadays, a single meal for an adult is what, $13, $14? Screw all that. I'm going to go ahead and cook meals at home. And it tastes so much better for a cheaper rate. And it lasts longer too. Kwesi, with dead money accounting for 27% of the cap, hitting the reset button at quarterback, should have been NFL purgatory. But you want to talk about value? You signed a quarterback, your starting quarterback, for $10 million, who's playing like one of the best in the league. Also signing three big-time impact players on defense, none of which considered to be household names. That's four total players that was recognized on the outside of being, and they're whatever, collectively being the driving force behind your team's success, currently 12-2 through your first 14 games. New customers at BetUS Sportsbook and Casino get a 150% bonus on your first deposit and a 125% bonus on your next two deposits up to $2,000. Promo code YouTube150. Going to Kevin O'Connell, who should be the front runner for Coach of the Year, the conductor behind Sam Darnold's resurgence. He's a culture builder. Every player likes playing for this guy. And that's huge because the sport of football is tough enough baseline. I've heard over the years players talk about how they wish they didn't have to go through the grind of practices throughout the week or before the season starts. Training camp, OTAs, mini camp, it sucks. I wish that all we had to do was to play on Sundays. That would be amazing. But it's the stuff that everyone doesn't see that absolutely sucks. But it makes it a little bit easier when you like going to work, when you have a boss that you want to play for. Everybody talks about and praises the leadership of Dan Campbell over Detroit, and rightfully so. I would say KOC has equal impact on leadership, just not as loud as Dan Campbell. Aaron Jones, when asked about what is the secret behind KOC's success with this team, with this roster.
What's his secret? I don't know. He's just him. It's KO. I don't know. It just has something to him. He challenges you, but not in a way where you feel like, oh, he's calling me out, or might challenge the offense, and it's not a way where you feel like he's calling you out, but it makes you want to go out there and perform that much better, because he sees it in you. Pretty much he's encouraging you, if I could put it into words. Yeah, he's pretty much encouraging you.
Take that soundbite and multiply it times 53. This is what every player thinks about KOC. And because of this, he has players playing above their weight. If KOC doesn't win Coach of the Year, and not one or the other, both of these guys, if KOC doesn't win Coach of the Year and Kwesi doesn't win Executive of the Year, it's all rigged. Just throw the whole voting system away. And now going to Jonathan Greenard, who should be a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year. Losing Danielle Hunter was supposed to set you back. All right, you signed Greenard, and that's the consolation prize that you have to settle on. But man, we're going to miss Danielle Hunter. But when you look at Hunter versus Greenard's stats this year, they're virtually the same player. The only difference between the two is $10 million less in guarantees for Jonathan Greenard. Last year, with Danielle Hunter on the team, the Vikings were 19th in sacks. This year, without Danielle Hunter replacing him with Jonathan Greenard, the Vikings are top 5 in sacks. Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, baller on a budget. And lastly, I want to talk about Sam Darnold, who's going to be in the conversation for MVP. Not going to win it. That's going to go to Josh Allen, but still having a fantastic season. And I talked about this before last week, but I want to dig a little bit deeper into this, expound on it. Comeback Player of the Year. I mean, this is what happened last year. Joe Flacco getting it over Damar Hamlin. It sparked outrage. And I understand the argument for both sides. Joe Flacco coming in mid-season, saving the Browns and taking them to the playoffs. That's nuts. Damar Hamlin, you want to talk about a comeback story? The man came back from death to be on an active roster the following year. I get it. And I think that's what, in part, makes sports so great, is that you can have arguments and have passion behind it. But evidently, the outrage was so great that the head of the AP came out, I guess because Damar Hamlin lost that award, saying, hey, the spirit of the award should be about a player that came back from a major injury and or lost significant time the year before because of said injury. So now that's the new baseline. But if we're talking about comeback stories, there's no bigger comeback this year than Sam Darnold. This man, who was a castaway, this season, 6th in passing yards, 5th in touchdown passes. He went from a nobody to commanding next year a market value of at least $40 million per year. So Sam Darnold, he's not going to win MVP, which I respect it. Don't deny Josh Allen's greatness. He deserves it. But because of the politics and the softness of the Associated Press, he's not going to win Comeback Player of the Year. I talked about this at the beginning of the video. To me, the second biggest story currently in American sports is the Minnesota Vikings. The number one current biggest story in American sports to me is Sam Darnold. In fact, for the entirety of 2024, the only story that's bigger than Sam Darnold, objectively speaking, is Caitlin Clark and what she did her rookie season. And it's a damn shame that the Vikings and all of these great stories are just flying under the radar. They're just getting dismissed left and right. On FS1, LaShawn McCoy gave a backhanded compliment to Sam Darnold.
Your starting quarterback is Sam Darnold. That's already hard to even sell. Yo, I'm going to sell you this right here. The Vikings is a really, really good team, great defense, got all pro wide receivers, et cetera, and the quarterback is Sam Darnold. Do you believe that? Nobody's going to say yes, give me that. And they're doing it now, right? So I do think they have good coaching on both sides of the ball, on defense and offense. The quarterback is playing good enough. Superstars everywhere, right? Running back, wide receivers. But I think with the quarterback and the team, it's just like something about them Vikings. I got to see more to believe it. I do think they are a good team, but it's hard for me to buy something when Sam Darnold is your starting quarterback. That's just the truth.
This is right now the biggest story, the best story, the most inspirational story in all of American sports. And if no one else is really going to give them their proper respect, then I'm going to do it. This is going to go down in history. As far as this is going to be another great chapter that we look back on as Vikings fans and say, man, you know what? Whatever happens, and here, if they don't end up winning the Super Bowl this year, I don't see them losing in the sense of what we're used to seeing in the past, where they slip up and they embarrass themselves on a national level. They either win the Super Bowl or they're going to be a tough out. We're going to look back and say, man, you know what? I'm glad that we got to witness this. Shout out to the folks at BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. We'll see you next time.